maybe you should write crazy over your bed. Wait, what's that? I see an important clue. Nah, just kidding. Boring, just like everything else in this sketch. Yeah, he's dead. Big deal. I'm really not in the mood to be analyzing crime scene sketches right now. Boring. I'm sure this is terribly relevant, but I've got nothing to say about it. I don't feel like looking at dead bodies right now. Is there something more exciting we could be doing? Oh, were you hoping for some witty insight? Shame, because you're not getting any. If only you hadn't told Adelaide about me, I might share my thoughts with you. As it is, you're on your own. What's the point? It's not like you're actually going to be able to investigate this case. Whoever drew this was a hack. That looks more like a piece of toast than a flower.
Interesting.
Oh, what? You actually found something without my help? I'm shocked.
Upton?
What is it, Fordham?
About those crime scene sketches.
Yes?
I think I found a connection.
I knew you would. What is it?
There's a single flower at each crime scene. They look deliberately placed.
There is? Let me have a look. You're right. One lily at each scene.
Wait, what did you say?
These flowers, they're lilies. Easter lilies, I think.
I don't believe it.
Upton, this is incredible. This is the lead I've been searching for.
What? You mean for another case?
The flower shop burglar. He was stealing Easter lilies. And I distinctly remember him saying something about his desire to uphold justice. At the time, I thought it was just the rambling of a lunatic, but now it seems so obvious.
So the flower shop burglar is the justice killer?
It seems too much of a coincidence otherwise.
Well, then that's wonderful. You can kill two birds with one stone. Excellent work, Fordham. I knew you could do it.
What exactly are the details regarding this justice killer?
The killings began a few months ago, and so far he's claimed 5 victims. The department wanted to keep this information out of the public eye to prevent a panic, but word has gotten out. On the bright side, it makes your involvement in the case much less suspicious.
What can you tell me about the previous victims?
4 men from Chumley: Hannibal Kirkland, Reggie Willingham, Ennis Bowditch, and Burley Cause. No known connection between any of them aside from the borough they lived in. I have copies of the police reports from each of the crime scenes. Go ahead and take them.
Thank you, Upton. What are the details regarding the killer's latest victim?
As I mentioned, the victim is Percival McDonough, a member of Parliament. He was found this morning by his secretary in his office. I expect the official investigation is still underway.
So the killer managed to get into the Houses of Parliament. No easy feat.
You can say that again. It's the killer's first high-profile victim. It means he's getting bolder.
I suppose I'll have to drop by and see for myself. Everything all right with you?
Oh, I'm getting by. I expect things will go back to normal once this killer is caught.
I haven't worn out my welcome here yet, have I?
No, you're still tolerable. But when was the last time you washed your hair?
You're starting to sound like Adelaide. I should get back to it.
Not a bad idea.
Right. I think I have enough information to get started. I think I'll begin with...
Odd. I wasn't expecting company. Chief Snelling?
Uh-oh.
Upton, we need to talk. Fordham, I should have guessed I'd find you here.
Ah, Chief Snelling. What a pleasant surprise.
I'm equally pleased to see you, Fordham, although having you here does save me a bit of trouble.
Trouble?
Those are some rather interesting decorations. Would either of you care to explain how they got here?
And once again, the jig is up. I hope you can talk your way out of this one, too.
I brought them here. after I made duplicates and took them from the police department.
Nice try, Fordham, but I know for a fact that isn't true. The ferroduplicator makes a report of every employee who uses it, as well as what was copied. A rather useful feature for instances such as these. Wouldn't you agree?
These gadgets are going to be the undoing of us all.
In any case, I did some digging and discovered some intriguing information. Upton, why have you been passing on classified police information to Mr. Fordham?
Because he's the best detective you ever had on the force, and you know it.
Is that right? Personally, I don't consider getting your partner killed the mark of a great detective. But what's done is done. Constance Upton, your employment with the New Britannia Police Department is hereby terminated.
But
I should add that it's only because of your 25 years of dedicated service that I'm not pressing charges against you. But as for you, Fordham, I have enough evidence to place you under arrest for obstruction of justice and interfering with police investigations. Do you have anything to say in your defense before I take you in for questioning?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. I know who the Justice Killer is.
Fordham, if this is your idea of a diversion...
It's true. I found a link in the sketches of the crime scenes.
All right, let's hear it then. What do you think you found?
I'll tell you if you promise to let me take the case.
Out of the question, Fordham. This is a police matter.
And the police haven't made progress in months. Fordham figured it out in a matter of minutes. Admit it, Snelling. Fordham is your best shot at finding the killer. Are you gonna let your personal differences put the people of this city in danger?
Fine. I'll let you continue to operate as an assistant in this case, if you have actually found something of value. Now, what is this link?
He leaves a single Easter lily at each crime scene. The same type of flowers the burglar and the chum was stealing.
I see. A tenuous link, but plausible. I'll give you until tomorrow afternoon. If you haven't come up with anything, I'm throwing you in jail.
Sounds fair to me.
And don't get any clever ideas about leaving town, either.
Come now, would I do something like that?
Fordham, it seems there's no telling what you might do. I'm probably a fool for not clapping you in irons right here and now. When you have something to report, come find me in my office. Don't make me regret this.
Well, that went better than I expected.
Except you're still fired. I didn't have a chance to get him to change his mind.
We'll worry about that after you catch the killer. In the meantime, I could use a drink. I'll see you later, Fordham.
Well, better get to work then. The clock is ticking.
Fordham, what brings you to this delightful spectacle?
Hello, Edwards. I'm investigating the Justice Killer. I believe I've got a very promising lead.
I heard an officer mention new orders from Snelling, but I thought he was just pulling my leg. Feel free to have a look around. I'm just writing up the notes from my initial examination of the body, so I'll be happy to share my findings.
Good. I'll just get started then.
These appear to be books on cryptography. I suppose everyone needs a hobby. Nothing has been written in yet for next month. Curious. Looks pretty fresh. I wonder what the killer uses to write with. Odd. The page for this month has been torn out. You suppose Edwards might know anything about that?
Got a moment, Edwards?
Of course. What's on your mind?
So, what was found at the crime scene?
A dead body.
Edwards.
Hey, just trying to lighten the mood a bit. Anyway, there was also the word justice written in blood, as you can see on the floor there.
Is that all?
What more do you need? All the pieces are in place. This is the work of the justice killer.
What did your examination of the body turn up?
Apparent cause of death was a single gunshot to the head, exactly like all the other victims. The bullet is still lodged in his brain. I'll remove it once I transport the body back to the mortuary.
Anything else?
No personal effects of note, just a folded up piece of paper in his breast pocket. It's blank, so the police weren't interested. I assume you aren't either.
Never assume, Edwards. I'll take it if you don't mind.
Be my guest.
Did the police manage to learn anything during their investigation?
Not much beyond what I've already told you. I think they were planning on speaking to the victim's wife, though.
Did you get the address?
I did, as a matter of fact. 1820 Kent Place.
Now we get to deal with the grieving widow. Hopefully the officers who delivered the news got the worst of it.
Did you find an Easter lily anywhere?
An Easter lily?
Yes. The justice killer leaves one at every crime scene.
Is that right? I never noticed.
Neither did anyone else, apparently.
So how does leaving a lily at the scene of the crime figure into all of this?
I'm still trying to figure that out, but I think it might be important to understanding his motive.
Well, be sure to let me know if you do figure it out. The thought process of killers is a twisted, curious thing.
What's your take on this whole justice killer situation?
It's giving me a lot of extra work, let me tell you. We haven't had a serial murderer in a long time, not since that fellow who was poisoning people about 10 years ago.
Ah, yes. Gascon Ghoul. Now there was a case.
Any theories or insights regarding the killer's motive or identity?
That's not really my specialty. If you want to get into that psychology stuff, you're better off talking to someone like Snelling.
Does it feel good to be out of the office?
As long as I have the chance to examine a body and learn something in the process, I don't care where I am. Though I do admit a preference to working in my own environment. Fieldwork can be a bit uncertain. There's so much more potential for contamination, especially with those clumsy officers trouncing about groping everything. Present company excluded, of course.
Edwards, did you notice McDonough's desk calendar?
I did. This month has been torn out. I asked the officers investigating the scene, and they had no idea what happened to it.
So it wasn't found in this room?
That's right. My theory is that the killer took it.
Which means there was probably something incriminating written on it. If only there was some way of knowing what it was.
Miles, have you forgotten the oldest trick in the book? Just find a pencil and you'll have that information in no time.
Edwards, do you have a pencil I might borrow?
Of course. Take this one.
Thank you. That's all for now, Edwards.
Good luck with your investigation.
A classic trick. Let's see if it works. Intriguing. We'll need to find out who this Ruby is. Aha! McDonough met with this person the night of the murder. I'll bet 500 crowns it's a false name. but at least it's something.
What? Who are you?
I'm Miles Fordham, private investigator. Your butler just announced me.
Oh, of course. Forgive me. I was just, well, never mind. Please make yourself comfortable, Mr. Fordham.
Thank you, Mrs. McDonough. I appreciate you seeing me, Mrs. McDonough. I know you must be going through a difficult time right now.
What exactly is it you want from me, Mr. Fordham? I already spoke to the police about my husband's murder.
I just have a few questions of my own.
Oh, very well.
What can you tell me about your husband?
I'll tell you the same thing I told the police, Mr. Fordham. Percival was one of the hardest working members of Parliament. He took his job extremely seriously. The recent election caused him a terrible amount of consternation, as I'm sure it did most people. He took Atwood's loss rather hard.
Did you see much of him?
I beg your pardon?
Surely someone with such an important position in government could find themselves consumed by their work. Did he spend much time at home?
He made it a point to come home and have dinner with me every night, even if he had to return to the office afterwards.
And did that happen often?
At least 3 or 4 times in a week, yes. He'd stay in his office working late into the night. As I said, he was very dedicated to his role.
Sounds to me like she's quite dedicated to hers, too.
Did your husband have any enemies?
He was a politician, Mr. Fordham. Half the city hated him.
Did he ever receive any kind of threats against his life?
None that I was ever made aware of. I have no idea who could have killed him, let alone who could have gotten into his office to do it. He hadn't told me about any meetings or appointments this week either.
Was it his custom to inform you of his work affairs?
Oh, well, I've always taken an interest in my husband's work. He'd often mention initiatives he was working on or people he was meeting, that sort of thing. Nothing sensitive or confidential, you understand. Just conversation about his day.
Can you think of any reason why your husband would have been murdered?
Not really. He was a vocal opponent of the construction of the Gascogne-Chumley Bridge, but I hardly think that would have been sufficient reason to drive someone to murder.
Why is that?
Well, it's just a bridge, isn't it? There are plenty of other ways to get to Chumley.
I meant, why was he opposed to it?
Oh, because the amount of money required to build it is exorbitant. Public funds should be used on roads and buildings that are falling apart. What's the point of having something shiny and new if everything around it is in disrepair?
How are you feeling, Mrs. McDonough?
My husband of 42 years was shot in his office. How do you think I feel?
Tactful as always, Fordham. How do you do it?
My apologies. Perhaps that wasn't the most appropriate question. Is there anything I can do to help?
You can start by finding the monster who murdered Percival.
Are you familiar with the art of cryptography, Mrs. McDonough?
What an odd question.
It's just I noticed several books on the subject in your husband's office.
Oh, well, yes. Percival was interested in cryptography and secret messages and the like. He would sometimes leave me coded notes when we first began courting many years ago.
What kind of notes?
Oh, now, Mr. Fordham, those were private. But Percival got a thrill out of knowing I was the only one who could read them. Sometimes he would write them using a special ink that would only appear when the paper was heated. I can't remember the last time he did that, though.
Do you know anyone named Shackley?
No, I've never heard that name before. Why?
I saw your husband had a meeting scheduled with him shortly before his murder.
That can't be right. He didn't tell me about that. He always told me about his meetings.
It was written on his office calendar, clear as day.
As I said, I don't know who that person is. Why wouldn't Percival have told me about their meeting?
Why indeed?
Are you familiar with someone named Ruby?
I can't say I am. Who is it?
Just a name that's come up in my investigation.
Sounds like the name of a trollop, or perhaps a dog.
Have you heard of the Justice Killer?
That was the name the police mentioned when they told me about Percival's murder. It's absolutely terrifying to think that one sick person could be capable of such evil. Why is he called the Justice Killer? What justice was done by murdering my husband?
I'm afraid I can't answer that right now, Mrs. McDonough, but I intend to find out. Those are all the questions I have for now, Mrs. McDonough.
All right, Mr. Fordham.
If this actually works, I'll eat my hat. Well, I'll be damned.
Can we talk some more, Mrs. McDonough?
I suppose so, yes.
Do you know anything about this letter?
I'm afraid I don't have my spectacles. What is it?
The coroner found it in your husband's pocket. He gave it to me because he thought it was blank. But after you told me about your husband's propensity for writing secret messages, I decided to try exposing the paper to heat. Allow me to read it to you. Dearest Mary, words cannot express the regret and sorrow I feel for how I acted last night. I swore to myself I would never harm you again after the last time, but I have failed us both. It is my deepest hope that you can forgive me and trust that I will never allow this monster out again.
I see. May I have that letter, Mr. Fordham?
I'm afraid I have to keep it for now. It's evidence.
I suppose that does make sense.
Mrs. McDonough, did Percival mistreat or abuse you?
He wasn't a bad man, Mr. Fordham. I wouldn't have married him if he was. It's just the stress of his responsibilities would sometimes oppress him. I would try and offer comfort, soothe his nerves, but there were a few instances where he lost control of his passions.
Did he ever hit you?
He did.
How many times did this happen?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe 2 or 3? You don't exactly count these things.
What a bastard. Maybe it serves him right for getting shot.
Thank you for your candor, Mrs. McDonough.
Can we please talk about something else?
Those are all the questions I have for now, Mrs. McDonough.
All right, Mr. Fordham.
Just a painting of some boring old aristocrat. Lord Alfred Edward Shufflebottom the Wise comes to mind when looking at this one.
Fordham, how goes the investigation?
I'm making some headway.
Is that right? I certainly hope so for your sake.
Chief Snelling,
Yes, Fordham?
what information do you have on the Justice Killer?
Clearly not as much as you.
I see how this is gonna go.
Well, what do you have?
A list of 5 victims, some information on each of them, and no clear idea what connects them. Until your discovery of the lily at each scene, that was where we stood. While I doubt this discovery will do much to aid in tracking him down, I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Do you know anything about Percival McDonough?
He's a member of Parliament. I believe his constituency is somewhere in central Kingsland. From the reports I've gotten, McDonough led a rather unassuming life for a politician. He is, however, the first victim who didn't live in Chumley. Either there's a link we've missed, or the killer is changing his method. Then again, since you seem so confident in your abilities to resolve this matter, I assume you'll provide an explanation.
Count on it. What do you know about the Justice Killer's previous victims?
Only what's in their files. All working men from Chumley. That's the only link.
You didn't look further into their personal lives? Maybe they had some social connection.
As I said, the detectives found nothing. You seem to think you can do better, so I'll leave it up to you.
You have to wonder how much more thorough the department's investigations would have been if the 4 men were all rich like McDonough.
So I see the department is still running like a well-oiled machine.
It is, in fact. But I'm sure Upton has kept you well informed of our activities. Incidentally, the woman accused in the Harris kidnapping is set to testify in court today.
Linda Walker's trial is today? That was fast.
Indeed. Sometimes the wheels of justice grind slowly. Sometimes they spin out of control. She'll be taking the stand within the hour. If you care to hear her for yourself, best get going soon.
Listen, about Leger's death.
I don't want to hear it, Fordham. What happened, happened. Nothing you can say is going to change my opinion on the matter.
And if I manage to find the man responsible?
The man responsible is standing before me. Even if you manage to find the culprit you let escape, it isn't going to bring Leger back from the dead.
But it will bring closure to the matter.
If that thought is what allows you to sleep at night, then so be it.
What makes him think you sleep at night?
Enjoying your new position, Snelling?
Reaping the rewards for years of hard work and dedicated service. A gratifying feeling you'll never be able to experience.
Oh, I get my gratification in other ways.
I'm sure you do, and I'd honestly rather not know about them.
I need to get back to my investigation.
Yes, time is not on your side, Fordham.
Remind me, Miles, why are we here again? Is this for your own personal satisfaction, or did you expect her to have some useful information?
Shh! Mrs. Linda Walker, you stand accused of kidnapping Charles Harris. What have you to say in your defense?
I had to see if I could speak with my son Alexander again.
Yes. According to your initial statement, you seem to believe that the Harris child is the reincarnation of your own deceased son.
All the evidence was there. I thought it had to be him.
And in regards to the execution of your plan, you secretly administered a soporific drug to your friend and the Harris family nanny, Mrs. Henrietta Davis? Is that correct?
Yes. I felt terrible about doing it, but there was no other way.
According to your journal, you used a mixture of chamomile and valerian, instructed by a Samuel, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Samuel is a friend of mine. He works at the docks, and he knows all about plants. I asked him what the best combination of herbs would be to put someone in a deep sleep.
So it was your idea, and not his?
Yes, that's right. He only told me about the plants. He's quite the expert. Why, you should see his collection of Easter lilies.
Did she just say what I think she said?
Now then, let's turn our attention to the night in question.
Interesting. This Samuel person might be worth looking into, although we can't waste time searching the docks with just a first name. I'd make a note of it, just in case it becomes relevant later. All right, I've had enough of this courtroom. Let's get back out there. Time's running out.